I'm Vienna from Wandering Vienna, and today I'm here with another exciting travel quote. One that I think deserves more than just a quick read, and it just happens to be the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes, by Marcel Proust. This quote captures the spirit of travel in a way that feels almost magical. It's not just about going somewhere new, it's about becoming a new version of yourself. And I know that sounds really dramatic and maybe a little cheesy, but hear me out, because I promise it's true. If you're only traveling to see new landscapes, take pictures, and say you've been somewhere, then you're coming as a tourist. There's nothing wrong with being a tourist. Honestly, we're all tourists sometimes. But being a traveler is something completely different. A traveler is someone who wants to experience life from another angle. Someone who wants to understand people, culture, food, traditions, and the tiny everyday things that make a place feel alive. A tourist might take a selfie in front of a famous monument and then leave. A traveler sits down nearby and watches people and notices the street vendors, hears the language being spoken, and actually tries to understand what makes that place special beyond just the monument itself. When you travel, don't go just because you want to see a famous site like the Eiffel Tower or Machu Picchu. Those places are incredible. I'm not pretending they aren't, but they're not the whole story. They're the highlights, not the heart. They're like the cover of a book. Beautiful, attention grabbing, worth seeing. Absolutely. But you wouldn't just look at a book cover and say you've read the book, right? Same thing with travel. The famous sites are just the beginning. Go to a place to learn. Go to see things differently. Go to understand why people live the way they do. Why they celebrate the things they celebrate. Why their food tastes the way it does. Go for the people, food, the experiences, smells, the sounds, the energy, everything that makes up a culture of a place, because that's what you'll remember years later. You won't remember every detail of every famous building, but you will remember the smell of fresh bread from a bakery you stumbled into, or the sound of kids laughing in a park, or the way the light looked at sunset while you were eating dinner at some random cafe. I'm not saying to skip the main attractions, definitely see them, but don't let them be the only thing you see. For example, the thermal baths in Budapest are super popular, and they're fun, relaxing, totally worth it. But Budapest also has this quirky pinball museum that barely anyone talks about. This whole place glows with a cool neon light and has lots of classic games. So go soak in the baths, absolutely, but then go play pinball later on. That's the balance. See the famous things that everyone knows about, but also wander into the unexpected things that most people miss. Go down the pretty alleyways filled with murals and street art. Some of the best art I've ever seen wasn't in a museum. It was on the side of a building in some neighborhood that wasn't even in a guidebook. Take a walk by the river and watch the reflections dance on the water. It's so peaceful and beautiful, and it costs absolutely nothing. It's free. Sit on a bench and people watch. Notice how people greet each other, how they dress, how they laugh, how they argue, how they live their lives. Those little observations teach you more about a place than a tour guide ever will. And don't get me wrong, tour guides are great, and they know a lot of history and facts, though half of the stuff they say, you end up forgetting it later on. And they can't teach you what it feels like to just exist in a place. They can't teach you the rhythm of life there. That's something you have to discover on your own by paying attention and being present. If you ever get the chance to go to Mumbai, India, you might think you're going to see the gateway of India, or the Taj Mahal, hotel there. And yes, those buildings are impressive, historic, and definitely worth seeing. But the real magic is in the local markets where people are selling spices, jewelry, fruit, clothes, and things you've never seen before. The colors are insane, like brighter than anything you'd see in America. And the smells hit you all at once in this amazing way. And some smells are good, some are not so good. But it's the spices, incense, and flowers all mixed together. It's in the shrines, tucked into corners, the statues decorated with fresh flowers and bright orange marigolds. The way religion blends into everyday life instead of being this separate, specific day thing. You'll see people stopping to pray in the middle of their day, just casually, like it's the most natural thing in the world. And for them it is. And then there are the things that hit you emotionally, like the dogs. I went to the Elephanta Caves, which are these ancient cave temples on an island that you take a ferry to go to. I remember seeing these extremely skinny dogs running around everywhere. You could see their ribs sticking out. They were just skin and bones. It was scary and sad, and it made me think about how different life is for animals in other parts of the world. Like at home, if you see a stray dog, someone calls animal control, and the dog gets taken to a shelter. But there, the dogs just live on the streets and no one seems surprised by it because that's just how things are. But then you see kindness everywhere. The plates of food left out for the homeless. You see people giving what little they have because sharing is a big part of the culture. You see kids with huge eyes begging for money when they should really be in school, and it breaks your heart. It really does, because it opens your eyes. It makes you think about privilege, opportunity, and how different people's lives can be depending on where they were born. Like, I was born in the US, and I get to go to school, I have clean water and food every day. Some kids my age were born somewhere else, and they don't have those things. It's not their fault. Even here in the US, about 20% of the kids have food insecurity, meaning they have trouble getting like 3 meals a day, enough water, and that's such a heavy thing to realize. Speaking of school, one of my favorite things to notice when I travel is the school uniforms. I know that sound, I know that sounds kind of random, but stay with me. I've never been someone who wanted uniforms for myself. I like being able to wear whatever I want, and I love fashion, but it's cool seeing the different styles around the world. In India, the kids walk to and from school in these colorful, neat uniforms. Some are navy blue and white. Some are these bright colored tunics. Sometimes you'll even see them grabbing lunch at a street food stall right outside the school. I thought that was so cool because here in the US, at least where I go to school, we're not allowed to leave campus for lunch. We're stuck in the cafeteria eating whatever they're serving that day. Seeing those differences, the contrast between what I know and what other teens my age experience in different countries, is one of my favorite parts of travel. It makes me feel connected to people my age, even though our lives are nothing alike. We speak different languages, but we're dealing with homework, friend drama, and trying to figure out who we are. But we're doing it in completely different worlds, and that's quite fascinating to me. If you want to find the true spirit of travel, eat at street food stalls instead of fancy restaurants all the time. I mean, fancy restaurants are nice occasionally, but some of the best food I've ever had has been from street food vendors and tiny family owned places that don't even have menus in English. One of the best meatballs I've ever had was at a restaurant in Rome where the lady that worked there didn't speak any English. It was great, but sadly, I can't even remember the name of the restaurant. In Cusco, Peru, I had the best tamale of my entire life from a woman selling them out of a cart on the street. They were warm, soft, and simple, and tasted like comfort tradition, and home, and were light as clouds. It was wrapped in a corn husk and filled with this savory mixture that I still think about sometimes. You can find moments like that all over the world if you're willing to look for them. And if you're willing to be a little brave and try things you're not totally sure what they are. Obviously, be smart about it and make sure the food's cooked properly and everything. But don't be scared to try new things just because they're unfamiliar. That's why this quote is so powerful. It reminds us that travel isn't just entertainment. It's not something you do for bragging rights or pictures, although we all like pictures, and that's totally fine. I take tons of pictures, but that shouldn't be the main reason you travel. It's something you do to grow, to become more aware, to understand the world better. My mom and I didn't start traveling because we wanted to say, oh, we've been here and here and here. We didn't start traveling to make other people jealous or to seem cool. We started traveling because we wanted to explore, wander, and understand. We wanted to be knowledgeable about the world and not clueless Americans who think everyone who speaks Spanish is from Spain, which, by the way, is not only wrong, but kind of offensive when you think about it. These little moments are what make travel worthwhile. Seriously, who would travel if it was only about walking through museums and taking pictures of buildings? I mean, museums are great, and I enjoy them, but that can't be the whole trip. One of my favorite things about travel is the spontaneity. You never know what's going to happen, and that's exciting. And sometimes a little scary, but mostly exciting. You might miss a bus. The museum you wanted to visit might be closed for renovations. Your phone might die. You might get a little lost. You might feel like a disaster in the moment. You want to get frustrated and cry. But those moments often lead to the best memories. Maybe you end up wandering into a cafe you've never would have found otherwise, and the coffee there is amazing, and the owner is super friendly. Maybe you stumble into a bookstore with the coziest vibe, all wooden shelves and warm lighting, and books in languages you don't understand but somehow still appreciate. Maybe you meet someone interesting, another traveler or local who gives you recommendations that aren't in a guidebook. When we were in Kathmandu, Nepal, we met a guy from Australia who we were able to exchange travel stories with. It was really fun. Travel teaches you to adapt, to be flexible, to let go of control, and see where the day takes you. Honestly, that's a skill that helps you in regular life too, not just when you're traveling. Learning to be flexible and to adapt when things don't go according to plan is so important. Because, let's be real, things rarely go according to plan. Whether you're traveling or just living your everyday life, stepping out of your comfort zone and getting out of your box is the whole point. New landscapes are cool, but seeing the world in a new, improved way is even better. It changes you, whether you've traveled a lot or never at all. You have to keep this in mind, or you'll lose sight of what really matters. In life, if you never leave your comfort zone, you'll never grow. You'll stay the same forever, and that sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? If you want to get a promotion or a raise at work when you're older, you won't get it by showing up and doing the bare minimum. You have to put yourself out there. You have to try new things and take on challenges and show people what you're capable of. Travel works the same way. If you don't step out your comfort zone, how will you learn a new language? How will you ever try a new food that might become your favorite thing ever? How will you understand a new culture or make friends with people who grew up in a completely different way than you did? I'm not saying that you have to go skydiving or bungee jumping, or do anything extreme, if that's not your thing. Stepping out of your comfort zone can be as simple as ordering something new off a menu that you're not entirely sure what it is, or asking for directions in a language you barely speak, taking a different route back to your hotel just to see what you might find. Small steps count just as much as big ones. Travel gives you new eyes, Eyes that notice things you would have walked right past before. Eyes that appreciate things you would have taken for granted. Eyes that understand things you would have judged or misunderstood. Once you've seen the world that way, you can't go back to seeing it the old way. That's the real voyage of discovery that Proust was talking about. Not the landscapes, but the transformation that happens inside you when you experience those landscapes with an open mind. When you come home from a trip, you're not the same person who left. You've seen things differently. You've tasted new flavors, heard new sounds and languages, met new people. You've challenged your own assumptions and beliefs. You've realized that the way you grew up doing things isn't the only way or even necessarily the best way. It's just one way out of thousands. And that realization is huge. It makes you more humble, more curious, empathetic. You start to understand that people all over the world are just trying to live their lives, take care of their families, find happiness, and make sense of everything, just like you are. We're all human. We all want basically the same things: love, safety, food, shelter, connection, purpose. We just go about it in different ways because of our different cultures and histories and circumstances. And here's the thing that I think is really important. You don't have to travel to another country to start developing those new eyes that this quote is talking about. Obviously, international travel is incredible. I highly recommend it if you ever get the chance. But you can start practicing right where you are, wherever you are. You could explore a different neighborhood in your own town, try a restaurant that serves food you've never had before, talk to people who are different from you, read books about other cultures. You can watch documentaries. You can learn a few phrases in another language. My point is to be curious, to be open, to actively look for a new perspective instead of just accepting the one you were given. Because that's what travel really is. It's choosing curiosity over comfort. It's choosing growth over staying the same. It's choosing to see instead of just to look. I think a lot of people see travel as this luxury thing that only certain people get to do. And yeah, it does cost money, and not everyone has the same opportunities. I'm aware that I'm lucky to have traveled as much as I have. But the mindset of travel, the curiosity, the openness, the desire to understand, that's free. That's something everyone can practice, regardless of where they are or how much money they have. That's one of the reasons I started Wandering Vienna. If you'd like to support this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. So, the next time you travel, whether it's to another country, or just to another state, or just another part of your town, remember this quote. Remember that the point isn't just to collect passport stamps or see famous landmarks. Although those things are fun, the point is to develop new eyes, to see the world more clearly, more honest, more completely, to understand people better, to understand yourself better, because travel has a way of showing you who you really are when you're outside your normal environment and routines. And who knows, maybe your next trip, whether it's across the world or across the town, will be one that changes everything for you. Maybe you'll discover something about the world or about yourself that you never knew before. Maybe you'll come home as a different person, someone with wider eyes and a bigger heart, a deeper understanding of this wild, beautiful, complicated world we all share. So go out there, explore, and stay curious, stay open, and remember, it's not about the landscapes you see, it's about the eyes you see them with. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to put your favorite travel quotes in the comments, because I love reading them from you and getting new perspectives. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one, because there's always more to explore. Bye!